While the bank would no longer have the advantage of state and religious backing, it possessed a very advantageous geographical location. Few would underestimate the ability of a country with a well-trained military, and the access of the Alpine passes. Anyone who has had to deal with an Alpine banker might be reminded of the haughty description of the Templars given by Sir Walter Scott, as more than one trait was passed from the Templars to the Swiss. The discipline and secrecy maintained by Swiss bankers, however, allowed them to achieve dominance both for their bank and for their currency. 28. Piracy. A merry and a short life. The Swiss franc took on a mantle of stability that was possibly second only to gold. Butler and Effa refer to the survival of the Templars as well as Switzerland's inheritance of the world banking industry. The authors observe the stunning resemblance of the Templar Red Cross motif to the emblems of Switzerland, the country as well as its cantons. The Templar cross has been simply reversed in colour, to become the flag of a united Switzerland, and other variations would become the canton flags. The Templar underground. Most dramatically, the post-1307 Templar Order took the form of a huge underground organization. This form developed in the north, where the resurrected French Templars who sailed with the Templar treasure fleet to Scotland reunited under the Anglo-Norman cousins of the French Normans. In France, the St. Clair family had been one of the handful of elite families that were instrumental in founding the new Templar Order. The Scottish branch of the St. Clair family, which had anglicised the spelling of its surname to Sinclair, would preserve the order. They allied themselves with Robert the Bruce, of the French Norman de Bruce family, whose name had also been anglicised. At Bannockburn, Robert defeated the English in the most decisive battle the Scots had ever experienced against their oppressors. The victory came shortly after a fresh force of Templar cavalry charged onto the battlefield. But the Templars remained underground in Scotland, even after the end of the War of Scottish Independence. Some of the more noble knights continued their careers as mercenaries. Evidence shows that 12 years after the Battle of Bannockburn the Scottish mercenaries returned to France under the employ of the Danges, another Norman family that helped found the Templars. There they fought under Joan of Arc in a war that history has done little to explain. Others, more often the rank and file, put their skills of construction and engineering to work in the trades. As a military force, the Templars, the New World Order 29, spent more time building than fighting. Thus the knights learned the building trades by constructing houses, bridges, and castles. After 1307 they put these skills to work in building many of Europe's finest monuments, including cathedrals. French Templars had little trouble fitting in, as the French language was spoken in the British Isles, and was for years to come the language of the court. French Templar words were corrupted into their British counterparts. Remnant Templars, while fighting as paid mercenaries, building bridges, or working in the trades, remained organized in underground lodges. They often employed secret words and handshakes to recognize each other, and came to one another's aid. Their sons, too, would keep up the tradition. The term Freemason entered the English language in the same century that the Knights Templar, as an order, was officially dissolved. The term was another corruption of the French language. The Templar Knights originally referred to each other as brother, or frère in French. What was Freemason in France, became Freemason in English. When the Templars travelled they erected quarters, and these became lodges, so named after the French lodges. The guard posted at the door of the lodge during meetings was the tiler, in English, derived from tailor, meaning one who cuts. But the term Freemason soon took on a new meaning. Unlike most of the populace, which was shackled to the land by the feudal system that prevailed in England and France, the former Templars became working craftsmen who were free to travel to find employment. At a construction site, which could be a cathedral, a castle, or a public building, the masons would band together and erect a lodge. Most lodges were not permanent, but would be built to protect the property of the traveling men. Masons promised that, if a brother mason came to them, they would find him work, give him money, and, when he was ready to leave, direct him to another lodge. Why would this be such an important charge for Freemasonry? Because in a feudal system, finding a home was nearly impossible for the remnant members of an outlaw order. All their old ties were broken, and there was no home to return to, certainly not back in France. Freemasonry was created to protect piracy. A merry and a short life. Those whose lives were threatened because of their association with the Knights Templar A Masonic initiation specifically states that the brothers are there to feed you, to clothe you, and to protect you from your enemies. The initiation also enigmatically states, "We will keep your secrets." For why a simple stonemason would attract enemies and have secrets that needed protecting is questionable. But it is not so hard to understand the need for secrets and protection from enemies for an outlaw Templar. The building trades and crafts were an opportunity for ex-Templars and later for their sons. The name Lewis came from a term meaning son of a mason, a status that was usually the only requirement needed for entrance into a lodge. It was also helpful in gaining employment. In the hierarchy, Christopher Knight and Robert Lomas write, "Now we are certain, without any shadow of a doubt, that the starting place of Freemasonry was the construction of Rosslyn Chapel." 15 This chapel was built on Sinclair property under the direction of the Sinclair family, members of whom would become the hereditary Grand Masters of the Crafts and Guilds and Orders of Scotland. For many former knights, Scotland was now home and building was their trade. Some ex-Templars did not fit into the new way of life. Not all the former Templars were masons and craftsmen. Some took to the highways as brigands, and some to the seas as pirates. The skull and crossbones, the same battle flag that had been used for piracy by the Templars, remained the flag of choice for pirates after the Crusades. The skull and bones announced the ship was a pirate ship. While it had a religious significance, to the elite order it also had a more practical use. To instill fear in the hearts of those under attack. It warned that there was not to be any other action except surrender. If that was not heeded, an all-red flag declared no quarter to be given. Like many of the Scott Templar words that have been derived from French, the battle flag was called the Jolly Roger, from the French Joli Rouge, pretty red.